Hello and welcome to our open forum for Microsoft Teams and O365. Just a general Q&A session. Our goal is that there are a lot of times that we have just questions that are around topics that we're not actually presenting in some of our other sessions. And as you use O365 and Teams, I find myself that there's plenty of other questions that come up just randomly. So we wanted to host these sessions so folks can just ask whatever questions they're having. Challenges, it could be administrative, it could be functional, it could be trying to solve a business problem. I always like those questions in particular, like what problem are you trying to solve? Anyway, my name is Nathan Austin. I'll be presenting today along with our CTO, Gerald Howland, and then behind the scenes, Stephanie is producing the presentation and will be helping us navigate the Q&A. So with that said, please go ahead and start putting questions in the Q&A. Just got a couple quick moments of things to touch on, and then we'll open it up for the session. So go ahead and start putting questions in if you have them, and we'll get rolling here. So as we move along, one of the things I always like to put 1 minute about MyTech. This is not about MyTech, but we always like to let people know that we're not a training company. We're not like an emissary of Microsoft. We are a small and medium business technology and services consulting company where over the last 20 years we've learned a lot about a proven IT strategy that we know can achieve proven results for our clients and consistent results for our clients. And we also understand that as a business, there's plenty of challenges that we're facing other than IT. We're just hoping that with collaboration with you that we can remove a lot of those IT challenges off your plate so you can focus on things that are more better use of your time. One of my favorite acronyms is HABU, highest and best use of your time. So as we engage, we coach our team to make IT easy for you, our client. Even though we're not a perfect organization, we don't always accomplish that. So if we're not accomplishing that, please let us know. Sometimes that means it makes it harder for us, but that's okay. The point is to make IT easy for you. And trying to make IT easy with our proven IT strategy in collaboration with you, our clients can achieve 4 times more value and productivity from their IT investments. So enough about MyTech. Let's get on into the Q&A. So to start, this is we'll hopefully show you how to. So I'm hoping that the questions come through. We'll actually not just verbally answer them, but actually show you the areas and options in O365 and our Teams as far as how to solve that problem or address your concern. So let's start off with what Teams or Office 365 questions can we show you? And if we have run out of questions, I have a short list of things that we can start to kick off some topics. So Stephanie, with that said, do we have any questions yet coming in through the Q&A panel?
Yeah, Nate, we do. The attendee's asking, I'm having trouble figuring out how to access Planner in Microsoft Teams. It works on some channels and Teams and not others. I have heard it might have something to do with whether you are an owner or a member, but I'd love to hear more behind why it works, doesn't work, and how I can enable my teams to use Planner without technical difficulties.
It's funny. I haven't opened up Planner much in any of the recent sessions, but I did for this session because I was thinking that maybe that would be something to cover. And that's the first question. So that's great. So first and foremost, for those who might not know what Planner is, I'm just going to open up the browser to the Microsoft Home. So I'm just in an Edge, the new Edge Chromium browser. That's what this icon is down here at the bottom if you're not familiar with it. And if you just log into office.com, you will have access to, this will show you all of the applications to which you have access. So Planner is one of those. So I'm going to click on that just so we can see what that looks like. So Planner it's a kind of a task manager, but it's more of a team, it's not an individual task manager. It's more of a team visibility or a project management light tool as far as being able to manage to-dos and tasks and actions. So when you open it in the browser, you'll see this column over here. It gives you the different plans that you have. So I'm going to pull up one here as an example. I'm using this one in particular because notice how up here it shows that it's part of the operations team general channel. And I know I haven't yet even come close to answering your question, but just forgive me as I'm laying some foundation here. So what often happens, and in fact, the way this plan was actually created, where we can add tasks, we can assign folks, we can set due dates, define sub items, etc., I actually recommend if this is going to be part of a team, which this one is, to actually create the plan from within Teams. Because what that does, it automatically adds the respective members, which are these are the people that have access to the team. It adds the same people that are part of the team, the operations team in this example, to the plan, and you don't have to do it yourself. It automatically does it for you. So once you've done that, there's a couple things this gets more specific to the question. So we actually did that here. We created a tab, and the way we did that is, just for everyone else listening, is you can click this little plus icon, and when you click the plus icon, it presents you with all kinds of options as far as adding a tab with an application. Notice Planner is one of those. I'm not going to create a new one, but this is how we got that plan as part of the tab, the team here. So I'm in the Operations Team General channel, which is the same spot where this team was created, Operations Team General channel, okay? And we added it to the tabs at the top. So Action Items and To-Dos, it's the same plan, and you're seeing the same information now that I click on that here. Again, pay close attention. I'm going to ask you to look at this column here, which is the Teams column, versus this column here, which is actually inside of Planner. I'm going to click back over here to Planner, and you'll see the difference. It's the same tasks. It's just the menu bar on this side is different. Okay. So I think the question is, in particular, is when you're accessing Planner inside of Teams, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or is it different by membership? So Gerald, I'd like to plant the seed for you if you know of any settings at the operations team level that might give a different level of access to the team. I think the answer is no, but I'd love to hear more technical details on that. But one of the things I have found is not that it's not possible to open up Planner inside of Teams like we're illustrating here. It's just that when you're in a meeting, so for instance, I've got our meeting agenda and notes here, and let's say you're in a meeting and you're keeping track of these meeting notes, and then flipping back and forth between some of these tabs sometimes creates a little slowness. So for instance, when I click back into this, it's going to take a little bit, a second, depending on how fast it goes, to kind of open up Planner again, because basically when I click on this, it's opening up Planner inside of the Teams window. So here we go. Let me try it. Notice how it has to kind of open again. So even though it was open previously, it took a little bit of a second to open up again. So one of the things that I recommend, and this is if you're a department manager or a team manager that's opening up, or even a team member, if you're going here to access your tasks, is use this little icon over here. Notice it says go to website, but what that'll do, and when I come into my meeting prep, I'll get these tabs set up, but instead of having to switch back and forth between tabs, I actually will click on this right here, and it's going to open up this plan in the browser. There you go. So now it's a lot easier to click back and forth between meeting agenda and notes, and then opening it up in the browser. You don't have to, it's not actually rendering it and opening it every time. So that's one of the things I would recommend if you're doing it like at a team level, and if you're trying to bring up team visibility. The piece that I would recommend for an individual, if they're trying to check, I almost don't even recommend that an individual accesses the plan. I actually suggest that they either, if they're opening up Planner, they go into this My Tasks view where they can click on that. And now what it's showing, instead of individual tasks on individual and having to click into each plan that I might be a part of or where I might have tasks assigned, I can just click on My Tasks and it basically shows any task that has been assigned to me. What I can also do is I can click on this little breadcrumbs up here, and I do encourage this, by the way, is you can click Add My Tasks to Outlook Calendar, and then that will actually, and I'll show you what this looks like, as I didn't open up Outlook in preparation for this, but you can click Add Task to My Outlook Calendar, publish that to your Outlook Calendar, and you will actually be able to overlay your regular Outlook Calendar with and have your Planner tasks either side by side or overlaid on your calendar. The final thing that I'll show that I actually would recommend if you're an individual, and this is probably the preferred way, any of these ways work, it's just which way works best for you, but the way that I find that works best is opening up To Do. Notice, actually, gosh, I need to reset this because I got rid of, forgive me, I'm going to go into my settings here, and I'm going to integrate, like for instance, I turned off, so So if you're in To-Do, it's actually the To-Do app. So this is what the icon looks like. But if you don't have it seen here, one of the things you can do is you can click on here into Settings. I can basically integrate things that are assigned to me. So this will be planner tasks that are assigned to me. Notice that's off. So I'm going to turn this on. Once I turn that on, it'll actually then start. Now this assigned to you tasks are here, and notice it's starting to sync. It usually takes a minute to sync, but in a moment, what's going to happen is you'll see that these tasks that are basically a part of my tasks, you're going to see these exact same tasks show up in To-Do. It's not yet, but the reason why that's powerful is because that's where you can really pull in your assigned tasks, your flagged emails, and your Outlook tasks, if that's something that you use. And it works well with mobile as well. So, okay, so going back, Gerald, do you know of any permissioning at a team or channel level that would potentially prevent or cause issues with someone opening up Planner in the team?
Yes, so there's a couple of potential things. So Planner items are secured by the same methodology that teams ultimately are. So when you create a team, you ultimately end up creating a O365 group inside of Azure Active Directory. That O365 group kind of controls all that security structure for the team's environment, everything else. Planner is secured by the same things. So if for some reason you have a Planner plan that is secured by a different group, you cannot add that to this team, to a team that is a different security control. Other than that, you should be able to create a new plan that follows the same team or the same security structure. That should be able to work out for you. The other thing is there is a, if you actually want to go to Manage Team and the permission section of a team, one of the things that you can do inside of there is you can actually say settings, and inside the settings area you can actually say what members are allowed to do, and one of those is to be able to add and remove tabs, add, remove apps, do all those kinds of things. And so if somebody has locked down the teams so you are not allowed, so that members aren't allowed to create apps or create tabs, that'd be the other reason why they might not be able to create a team also.
Yeah, and that was the, I appreciate that, Gerald. The first that I had was that maybe the team was created prior, and so I'll illustrate that. If you go into, or excuse me, the plan was created prior. So if you're going to create, if you go into add a new tab, this is what, if you're creating a, if you're able to start from scratch and build a new plan for your team, this is how I'd recommend doing it, is go into the respective channel or team that you want to have that plan, click on the tab plus icon for adding a tab, click on Planner, and when you come in here, the default is creating a new plan, so you can do that. And usually if you say click on existing plans, it'll only show you plans, because there's more plans, it'll only show you plans that have the right permissions to match this group. So if you have an existing one, that's how you can pull it in, is say use an existing plan from this team, or hit here, create new plan, and say new plan, or whatever you want to call it, you know, to do, and then you just click save, and it basically creates a new plan, automatically applies the permissions of this team to this plan, and then adds the tab at the top so that it appears just like this. It'll just pop that in. So yeah, good question, and thank you for asking a Planner question. I was hoping, I really wanted to cover that and To Do today, so that was good.
Awesome. All right, next question we have is someone who attended yesterday's session, and they said that yesterday we talked about notifications in Teams,
yes,
and that you can set it up to receive emails. This is how ours is set up, and I can't seem to get the email notification to come through. I've tried this with chat. Can you demonstrate this?
Good. So first of all, the settings for notifications to be able to email are at the parent level. So they're at, they're at your, like the profile level up here. So you have to go up here and hit the settings. One of the things that people, if you notice, I'm going to click here, I'm going to say, actually I'm going to click on, I flip on a sub channel here. I'm going to choose this channel just by illustration, hit channel notifications. I don't even have the option of email in here. So inside of an individual channel, I don't even have the option of email, at least at the moment. So if you're talking about email settings, you have to go up here, click on your little, either if you have your picture embedded or the icon up here, click on settings, and then you can go over here to notifications. And right now, as far as I understand, this is where you have to set for chat messages, is banner and email. I don't know if you have just banner set. Maybe you already set that, but if this would be the first place I would go, is banner and email here under the chat messages. And then I don't know if that's, again, conversations you've started, conversations you've replied to. Again, you can choose those different components there, following channels, banner and email, etc. So that's the first, I mean, that's really where that goes. And Gerald, I guess, is there anything you can think of why that wouldn't, like, if you have this, so I'm guessing that this person might have this actually set already. Is there any reason why, or some?
So before you leave that screen,
sorry,
or hop back into that screen, there is one more setting in there that you really want to pay attention to.
Okay.
And I can't believe Microsoft puts it there, but if you look at the very bottom setting underneath the other section in there, so it's the missed activity emails.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens is, you aren't going to get an email for every message or everything that triggers in that. So every missed conversation is not going to just pop an email right away. What it's going to try to do is it's going to wait to see whether or not you've actually missed that. You may be chatting with somebody else. That doesn't mean that you're not going to answer that other one, and it's not going to send that email. So if you drop that down, you'll actually see that there is a series of options, and one of those is as soon as possible in there. And depending on what that is set to for them currently, that might be part of that reason. I want to say it actually defaults to every hour or every 8 hours. So it might be that it is consolidating all that over an hour. And then it also has to be that you've missed that message. So usually that message has to have been idle for probably almost an hour before it will actually trigger sending you an email about it. So
good call, good catch, Gerald. Yeah, because I can tell you, I mean, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is that, I mean, the part of the value of Teams is reducing the amount of email you receive. So by having internal communications, we're going to talk about this actually in next week's sessions, especially on Tuesday. The session is really about chat and things like that, but driving adoptions with chat. Yeah, so getting an email for every single message that's there is not really it's not really the intent. So I appreciate I totally didn't even think about this, as far as it really should be about getting notifications on something that you missed, or something that you that you hadn't actually acknowledged. So basically that means that some message that you may have received that's been sitting there that you didn't actually have the chance to see or acknowledge, then those settings will give you an email. So good catch. I hope that answers the question. And that shouldn't, I mean, there's not a whole lot of options to not have that work. So I bet it's a combination of this one and whether or not the settings are set up here the way you want as well. So
yeah, I think the big thing is defining what is a missed message, and it's basically you being offline and not available in Teams. So even though, like, I'd love to demonstrate it right now, but it's really hard because we're actually in a Teams session right now, running this presentation. And the problem is as long as you're in that Teams session, it thinks you're in Teams, and it doesn't necessarily believe that it's a missed conversation yet.
Yeah, good point. So I guess the test for the person.
The settings correct.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The attendee is saying they do have the settings correct. So.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's as Gerald, the last part of what Gerald just mentioned is, are you missing? Have you done that? Like if you close out of Teams and then someone sends you a message, and I would move this to maybe faster one of these times and see if, like, do you get an email for a missed item? That'd be something that I would challenge, because the other thing is, like, that applies to mobile as well, right? So it knows if you checked it in mobile versus the desktop app. And so, but yeah, otherwise I don't know. That sounds like it could be some other issue if you've got these settings correct. And again, the definition of missed activity is a little relative based on what Gerald said as far as getting notifications. So.
All right, and actually there's a follow-up to the previous question as well in regards to the planner and teams.
Okay.
The individual saying that they are the owner of the team, and the message that they're getting is failed to create the plan when they're trying to create a new plan. I don't know if that gives you any more context into what could be happening.
Yeah, so when they said here, you're saying when you click on the breadcrumbs and hit manage, brings you to this screen. And so you're saying you're the owner of the team. And as an owner of the team, you should be able to do any of that stuff, like creating a plan. So Gerald, do you have any idea why it would say, is that just like a glitch, or is there some backend administrative permission thing that could be interfering with that?
Boy, there might be a back-end administration thing, but boy, I don't. If you're a owner of a team, I would believe that you'd be able to create one. Let me do a couple of quick searches and see if I can find something, okay. But I don't know of an answer to that right offhand.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's good. I guess the one thing that I might challenge the person who's asking that question is maybe see if you can go to, and again, it depends on how many people are in that team. So this could be a little tedious, and so take this with a grain of salt because I don't know the size of the team and all that. But what if you were able to? Can you come to Planner and create a plan? Maybe that's where the permissioning might be a problem. Is do you have the ability as your user to be able to create a plan and maybe come to, so you can go to office.com, click on Planner, and when you're in Planner, can you create a new plan? And if you can do that, maybe that's where the problem lies. And maybe if you can create the plan, can you create the plan, make sure that the right members are associated with it, and you might be able to, in theory, then you should be able to go into Teams, say, go into Planner and say, I want to use an existing one and grab that plan that you created from Planner as opposed to from within Teams. Again, that shouldn't be a problem, what you're doing, but maybe there's something with, I'm wondering if it's not a Teams problem, but it's maybe your user for some reason, or your account doesn't have the permission to create a plan. Or maybe it's a Teams and Planner integration problem that needs to be troubleshot on the back end from an administrative perspective. So maybe try that and see if that works or not. And if not, and if you're a client of ours, I would say maybe enter a ticket, and that's something that we can a support request, and we can dig into that and try and figure that out. Because it sounds like more of a glitch than that's definitely not the way it's intended.
Okay. All right. The next question is, can we review if I create a team and link it to an existing SharePoint site, it should get its permissions members from SharePoint site, correct? When I'm working in Teams, can I add a guest to a channel conversation?
That is where I'm going to defer to Gerald. So it sounds like there's a couple parts. So yep. One, can you take a team and link it to an existing SharePoint site? So if you've got say you've got one of these SharePoint sites already here, can you create a new team and link it to a site? The answer I know is you can, but I think that's a backend administrative function. And then the question is, so I think there's actually almost a three-part question, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because then you want to, I think then you said you want to do the permissions, then go from SharePoint into Teams. So,
right.
And then the last part was, can we add a guest to a channel? So Gerald, I think this is all permissioning, and it sounds like for the most part is either A, back-end administrative connections that need to be made, or B, permissions that need to be set in order to be able to add a guest, for instance, to the channel. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so let's start off with the existing SharePoint site to a team. So one of the catch-22s with this is make sure I get this straight here. So there's multiple kinds of SharePoint sites. The only kind of SharePoint site that you can integrate into a team itself, so that it actually becomes part of the posts and files and all the native actions, is if it's a SharePoint team site. Then you can actually, there's a backend tool to add a team to that site. But that'd be the only way to do that. If you already have an existing SharePoint site and that's not a team site, there is really no way to connect those two. Or if you already have a team site and you want to be able to interface the two, they will still operate independently of each other. There really isn't a way to combine them once they're generated. So,
hey, Gerald, on that front though, you can't combine them, but you can link to them.
You can link to them, but the permission sets will be independent of each other. So the permissions will not, by linking it to the team, it's not going to add permissions to the linked team. You're going to have to modify permissions on both sides.
Yes. Yep.
So that's probably the big thing is just knowing that if they're linking them is providing links to it and shortcuts to it is capable. It's just that it's a completely separate. There's a completely separate series of permission structures in that.
Yep.
And then the question about adding guests to a channel. So you can't. Adding a guest is a team level action, not a channel level action. So you'd have to actually add them to the team first before you can add them to the channel. And then that, of course, opens up them technically to any public channel within there. So that's kind of a catch-22 you have to watch out for if you're going to add somebody that's a guest to that platform.
Yeah, and so I think some of that too is like, what's the nature of what you're trying to accomplish with that? So for instance, we did create a guest access team where we added external folks, and so that we can allow them to share in the posts and files and et cetera. But that's the trick. If you're just trying to add someone to a conversation, you can invite people, and that, let's say you're holding a meeting, for example, and like again, you're meeting in this channel, for example, and you want to add someone, you can invite guests if it's been permissioned that way. So that's another back end thing where you would have to permission allowing external guests to participate in a channel conversation for that to happen. Otherwise, you'd have to, because you could do that in channels that are not guest accounts. But if you wanted to create a long-term standing membership where that person or people had access to the entire team, creating a guest team or whatever that team might be called, not guest access team, but it would be one way to accomplish that too. Hope that answer some of that. And by the way, for those who are asking these questions, we've definitely, one of the challenges of the Q&A, so we acknowledge that, is that sometimes we don't always fully understand the context of the question. And so if we're not answering your question, by all means, if you're already working with us in particular, make sure to reach out and sell us in your survey or follow-up emails, and let's make sure we dig into the individual issue that you're trying to solve if we're not fully answering the question for you. So just keep that in mind, please.
Yeah. The attendee actually responded saying that they are aware of creating the link. The question really is, are the permissions based on the SharePoint site, and can I allow the guests? So just to kind of clarify there.
Yeah, Joel, you want to address that?
Yeah, so it is a, so the permissions, if you were going to be building a team based upon an existing SharePoint site, then yes, the permissions would be based upon that, because the permissions for a Microsoft SharePoint team site is based around that same O365 group that we keep going back to. And so that's why you'd basically be building a team that's interfacing to that same group also.
Yeah. And then would those permissions work together? So for instance, Joe, if we connected the site to this team, for example, and if I went in here and I added a member, would it flow once you've connected those two? Would it flow together and they work together?
Yes. Yeah. So that would be, I have no team in Teams, and I have a existing SharePoint team site, and I add a team to that SharePoint site. That would be then yeah, they'd be actually using the same group, and the permissions would integrate 100%.
Gotcha. That's okay. And so then from a guest access, the permissions would flow. You'd have to be able to allow either the site and or the team to be able to invite a guest in order to be able to invite a guest. You have to, that is a back-end permissioning thing, because by default, my understanding is Teams turns off external sharing. You have to purposely choose to enable external sharing or adding guests to do that.
Yes. Yep. You have to allow the access for guest access.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Hopefully that helps that person, because I think that that last couple pieces might have clarified there. So, any other questions, Stephanie?
Yeah, we got another one here. Can you repeat how to sync your tasks with Outlook Calendar?
Yes, thank you. And I forgot to show that. So when you're in, okay, so you're in a planner. I'm gonna open up. Try to forgive me. So if you're in, so for instance, right now I'm in a plan. I'm in the action items and to do plan, or I could have tasks that are in my. I have a task here on the team accountability plan, and I don't think I have anything on the finance one. I don't, but I've got tasks across multiple plans. So instead of me as an individual having to try and manage that and click into here and say, oh yeah, here's my task, and click into here and here are my tasks, you can click into my tasks, and you have to go into Planner to do this, because this column is not available when you access the same plan. And forgive me, I just operations team general, I just went to the action items and to do tab, which is Planner. Notice that column that exists when you open up Planner doesn't exist if you open it up inside of Teams. So in order to do this, you have to open it up in the web browser. You click on my tasks, which will then show all of your tasks that are assigned to you across any plan. Notice it shows this is the plan that this task is on versus this is the plan that this other task is on. And you go up here to the breadcrumbs and you click add my tasks to Outlook Calendar. Once you click on that, it's gonna, I don't even know why it gives you the unpublished option, by the way, because it doesn't do anything. So you have to click publish and then say add to Outlook. Once you add to Outlook, it'll pop up. I'll just show you. It'll pop up what the Outlook web access, because that's what it does by default. And it's already been added. So you basically click save, or you can close this window, because there's usually hit save. So now what it does is it gives me an option down here. It gives me a planner, my tasks, and this is in the web view. So this is my calendar. But then if I add my tasks, again, I don't think I have any tasks. Here's my task. So I went back to another week where I know those tasks were due. So it overlays my regular calendar in blue with the planner tasks. Let me show you how that looks like in Outlook. So I just open up Outlook, go into the calendar. And also notice how it gives me the same kind of options, just looks a little different. It's my calendar and then planner my tasks that populates here once you've done that. And then I'm going to go back to where I know I had some of those scheduled. So it shows where I've got some tasks here, and I can choose to overlay that onto my calendar or not by clicking this little arrow button here. And that's basically by saying, when you go into Planner and you click, when you click up here on the breadcrumbs and you click add to my tasks, it basically turns on this feature down here and that you wouldn't previously see, and you could just click on Planner my tasks. So that's how you do that. It's separate, as I mentioned, if you want to integrate that into To Do. Let me see if I can refresh this. It doesn't seem to be wanting to pull those in, but this is where you can, your Outlook tasks, you can build personal to-do lists as well. But using To Do, you can actually pull in any planner tasks that are assigned to you, Outlook tasks that you've put on your Outlook, as well as flagged emails you can pull into here. So there's different ways to do it depending on what you're operating in, but you can view your tasks, in Teams. You can view them in Planner, but I definitely recommend using my tasks and either adding it to your calendar and or using the To Do app to be able to pull those in as well.
Awesome, thanks for showing that. That is the extent of the questions that I have in the panel.
Well, it's almost like we planted the questions. We didn't, for the record, because I could show you my notes, which you probably wouldn't be able to see on the screen, but I actually wrote Planner and To Do on the things that I wanted to cover today if questions didn't come up, and those are the questions that got asked. So thank you for that. Using Planner and To Do, as a side note, part of the problem is that first and foremost, you need to get your organization and the departments or the teams you're on using these tools, because the ability to use to do and the ability to overlay them on your calendar doesn't really do you any good if your team isn't using them. So getting your team to use them and start integrating it to your calendar view and being able to use the to-do app. Once we started doing that as a team, it really helped me as an individual do a better job of having visibility to my tasks across the different teams that I was on, and helping me get a consolidated view of the things I needed to do, as opposed to spending an hour trying to find the things that I needed to do in the first place versus actually doing the things that I needed to do. So great questions, and I definitely encourage you exploring both of those applications as you move along here, because it's definitely can be very beneficial. So we hope that you got some takeaways out of today. If you did, write them down. These apps are also mobile friendly, so the to-do app you can get on mobile. Planner app actually works pretty well on mobile too, as far as being able to interact, and Teams of course does as well. So those might be some things you can think about. Try to take some baby steps in the next 24 to 48 hours as you get working on this, and join us in future events. We have 2 best practices sessions. It's a 2-part series next Tuesday and Thursday around driving adoption. So taking a lot of these concepts and what are some practical ways that we've experienced with ourselves as well as our clients of helping really drive adoption throughout your organization. Because if you're the only one using these tools, it doesn't really do you a whole heck of a lot of good. It really needs to be collaboration across your team. So thank you all for joining us today, and hopefully that you can enjoy your weekend. And until we see you next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.